Think about garments, right? You think about the symbols on the garments, right? You've actually got 4 symbols, but you have one symbol, then you have a repeated symbol. So it's really 3 different characters, you might say, okay? So 4 sacred symbols, 2 of which are actually repetitions of each other, okay? Now think about the sacred name of God in Hebrew, known as the Tetragrammaton, YHWH in English, right? Yahweh, okay? So it's 4 characters, but 2 of them repeat. Okay? The H is a repeated symbol, okay? So I would suggest that the garment is actually a representation of the sacred name of God. So when we're reading the scriptures about taking on us the name of Christ, in the temple, when we put on the garment, we are actually literally doing that. We are taking the sacred name of God and we are literally clothing ourselves with it. So we are putting on the name of God.
Dude. That was awesome.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, okay, cool. I got to tell you right now, I think garments are so much more cool. With that said, I really think we do need to make them slightly better fitting, a little bit more accommodating to some of the modern.
Carden,
I'm sorry.
Were you listening to anything we said?
I'm 6'6".
Oh, geez.
I'm 6'6", and if Jesus would allow me to freaking wear my garments with a decent pair of board shorts that goes down to my knees, I would really appreciate it.
I'm spending money like I just got paid. $100 bills, tell them keep the change. Come on.
The thing that kept Adam and Eve from being roasted alive in the presence of God
Pop a bottle, about to make it rain. Let me give you something now to celebrate. Come on.
Was the actual clothing that Jehovah sewed.
And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good.
Now, our translation says it's a coat of many colors, okay? And that, as Hugh Nibley rightly pointed out, is a mistranslation. It should not be colors, it should be markings. There's a coat of many markings that he gives him. Now, how do you know this? We can prove this using the Bible.
Is that not the X logo? No, look at the left-hand side of it.
The following is an episode of Ward Radio and does not represent the thoughts or the opinions of KHTS, its owners, or any of its affiliates, nor does it represent the official opinion of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. With that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Ward Radio. I'm your host, Carden Ellis. I'm joined today in the studio by Kwaku L, Brad Whitbeck, Jonah Barnes, and Don Bradley. We got an interesting topic here today. Jonah Barnes, the associate professor of all things apocryphal, next to the, what did we call you last time? The proverbial professor of all professed polygamy. Was that Don Bradley? Jeez, wow. We got to give you, Brad the Canadian, some kind of really cool alliteration as well. The cool Canadian. Not the conniving Canadian, because
the conniving Canuck.
Yeah,
the conniving Canadian Canuck.
Yeah, that'll work. Whatever your alliteration is, Jonah Barnes, you're bringing us today a gift of a podcast on Dead Sea Scrolls reveal lost doctrine of LDS garments in ancient writ. So again, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, LDS doctrine is popping up. Defend your thesis, Jonah Barnes. Go.
All right. First of all, let's get out in front of this. People in the comments, I know there's a difference between Dead Sea Scrolls, apocryphal writings, the Nag Hammadi Library, et cetera, et cetera. Please just chill out. All right, people, chill out. Okay?
We're using the colloquial term.
We're just, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so first let's start with some images. Okay, so and I know that you guys probably have heard of some of this stuff, but maybe our listeners have not. I know Don.
Like an allegory or what?
No, that garments have been around forever.
Images in the Discord.
We got there's 2 images in the Discord I'd love for you to pull up. The first one of them is Egyptian. I stole these shamelessly from Jeff Roundy, who has the channel Mormonism Q&A. Is it called? Cool. Or Latter-day Saint Q&A? Yeah, excellent channel on YouTube. Jeff Roundy, awesome dude, smart dude. I shamelessly stole these from him. Building the kingdom, Jeff, building the kingdom. But this is just one example of evidence of, so if you don't, how do I say this? There's a lot of symbolism in the Latter-day Saint Temple as revealed through JosephSmith.
And you may recognize this symbolism.
And you may recognize some of the symbols here. They are not modern inventions by JosephSmith, and they're not from the Masons either. They are as old as time itself. So this is an example found in ancient Egypt of a carpenter who was using I think those symbols that's a square and that little
There's the
upside down-
planer's blade. There you've got the notched wood, and then here's some. It looks like a sarcophagus in the background with this is
There's a
good
little
stuff.
compass that he's using.
Okay, rock
So
on.
some of these symbols will be familiar to people who are blessed enough to have Joseph Smith's restored gospel. Excuse me, Jesus Christ's restored gospel through Joseph Smith.
Boom,
This
shakalaka.
is this is medieval artwork from, I think this is actually Justinian era, of the miracle of the loaves and the fishes, Byzantium artwork. And if you notice, this Jesus giving out the loaves and the fishes to everybody has a marking on their garment. Very interesting and very prominent marking on their garment of that same compass that we see in ancient Egypt.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so what we're going to get at here is that garments anciently and modernly are not just the colors that they have, and they're not just the shapes that they have, but they have markings in them, okay? They're marked, and that's what makes them interesting, okay? Those markings have been around forever, and they are supported by ancient documents that we have found.
Okay,
So,
rattle off, like which ones, bro? Like, by the way, these apocryphal writings, their titles just get cooler and cooler, but they're also kind of strangely predictable. For example, whenever they build a suburb of Los Angeles in a new high-end community, they always take either north or south, and then the terms point, ridge, or valley, you know what I'm saying? And they just mix and match them.
Like an ad-lib.
Oh, I live in North Ridge. Oh, that's funny. I live in South Valley. Oh, that's great.
South Ridge.
Point. Like I live in South Point. Oh, that's funny. There was a North Point that I just moved from. They have no other words that they use other than like a direction and then a geographic entity. Okay. Same goes for the Apocrypha. It's always like, oh, there's always it's the lost, whatever. It's always the lost.
The lost.
And then it's either the gospel of insert obscure figure here who showed up in one of the synoptic gospels. Okay. Or it's always like the acts of insert strange female character here who is mentioned obscurely in some text. Okay. Or they call it, the lost gospel of, and they name an already existing gospel, but now they give him a cool peg leg like a pirate. Like, oh, like Didymus the blind. You know what I'm saying? Or they say, oh, it's not just
the blind.
It's just not the normal gospel of Thomas. It's the infancy gospel of Thomas. You know what I'm saying?
Yarg.
So they either start talking like pirates, or they start talking like confused fishermen trying to get their bearings using the stars.
Well, those
Which,
Gnostics.
to be fair, those are kind of the same thing.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So, what specific apocryphal writings would you say include many of these references to the garment? Because we had Speedy Dan on here recently talking about Nimrod being the first that sought after the garment, and the fact that the original garment might have actually been a garment that was passed down generationally until finally it was almost so shredded that it was given away for a birthright by Esau, and so on and so forth. I'm regurgitating the
but it keeps
podcast
going.
horribly, but it keeps going. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So what apocryphal writings are you gleaning from?
The first book of Adam and Eve, or the Latin Vita de Ada y Eva, or Egyptian also, there's lots, there's Slavonic, there's Greek. But in the first book of Adam and Eve, and this is all open source, you can Google this stuff, chapter 52, talks about when Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden. Okay, now first of all, Adam and Eve were discovered to be naked. And this is according to the apocryphal works. And the first thing
embarrassing.
yeah, and don't you hate when that happens?
It was.
Your dad walks in.
Yeah.
So the first thing that they do is they sew an apron to cover themselves. This is what Adam and Eve do for themselves. And the Apocrypha says that it was a fig tree that they took leaves from, and they sewed themselves an apron of fig leaves to try to cover their nakedness. And that doesn't work. And so when God and
That'd
Jesus
be really
Christ...
itchy. You ever touched a fig leaf? Like, I don't know if I'd want that, restricting my
Right on there.
my workflow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As what's Taylor Swift's boyfriend's name?
Kelsey.
Travis Kelsey. Yeah, Travis Kelsey and his brother have a hilarious podcast where they talk about what it's like hiking a ball to a new quarterback who's kind of afraid to get all up in your business. You know what I'm saying? It's a hilarious YouTube short. I will link to it in the description. But I was just thinking, tight spandex football pants are hard enough, let alone if they're made out of figs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Guys, Travis Kelce understands the struggle of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what this podcast is really about.
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are synonymous, analogous, and almost completely spiritually representative.
Oh man,
of Adam and Eve in the garden.
Her next album's going to be called The Fall.
Wait, are you legit right now?
No.
Okay.
that was prophecy.
She just won a Person of the Year. The Time Magazine's Person of the Year is Taylor Swift.
Oh,
wow.
Rock on.
It was Volodymyr Zelensky last year. Now it's Taylor Swift.
Oh,
all right.
Quite
that's
the swing.
not a good act to follow.
Well, they're equally serious people.
So as the story goes, they try these fig leaves and it doesn't work. And so, in the Apocrypha, and according to rabbinic tradition, Jehovah himself comes down and slays an animal and takes the skins of that animal to sew the garment for Adam and Eve with thorns. He uses thorns, some say horns, as the needle, and he sews them together, this garment. Now, there's something very sacred and holy about taking the skin of an animal. An animal's skin is this barrier between veils. It's this barrier between the mortal realm and the immortal realm, between eternal and finite. Your skin is what separates you from the world. Your skin is what, clothes you. And so you can take it from an animal and put it on yourself. And so this garment that was taken for Adam and Eve is from an animal that was slain. Oh, thank you. That was slain before death entered into the world. So this animal was the first thing to die. And so it's a big deal to the first sacrifice is for this garment, right?
Now, we know that it was fig leaves. Do we know what kind of animal this was?
No.
A ram.
Good. I don't know.
All it says is
it's
animal
furry.
skin in Genesis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
So
look,
Apocrypha
Don, you're here for your looks, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just stay in your lane, and yours is the right
you ever
lane.
read
That's
Genesis,
the slow
Don?
lane. The right lane is the slow lane, all right, Don? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so anyways, to speed it up. So that garment goes to Adam and Eve. They pass their garments on down through Noah. Actually, Noah takes the body of Adam and Eve with him on the ark, is how the Apocrypha describes it. Yeah, this is the book of Jasher. You can look some of that up. Takes it through the flood, and then the garment that Adam had is passed down, and it's passed down generation to generation. Goes to Melchizedek, which goes then to Abraham. Okay, Nimrod. We know the story of Nimrod, who used it to trick the animals. The garment supposedly had the day that Adam and Eve did this whole thing was the day they were burning incense in paradise. And so the garment smelled like the Garden of Eden. And so people would say, let me smell the air of paradise. And it smelled like paradise. And the animals would smell this smell of paradise and they'd think everything was safe. And that's how Nimrod was a good hunter. Fun fact.
Oh.
Okay, so then that garment gets passed all the way down till it reaches Israel. And Israel gives his coat to Joseph. Now, our translation says it's a coat of many colors. Okay? And that, as Hugh Nibley rightly pointed out, is a mistranslation. It should not be colors. It should be markings. It was a coat of many markings that he gives him. Now, how do you know this? We can prove this using the Bible. In the Bible, we look it up. You can look this up. When they say Joseph is dead, what do? They bring back to Israel a piece of his garment. And Israel's blind. How the heck would Israel know if it's his son's garment if he's blind? He feels it.
He feels the markings in
He
it.
feels the markings and he goes, that is Joseph's garment. I know it is because he can feel the markings in the garment. So that garment is what Joseph really had. That was the coat of many colors. It's actually the coat of many markings. Okay. And we all translate that wrong. And that comes from Al-Tabari, which is a Jewish sect living out in Persia, and that was a tradition that passed down from them about the details of the garment.
So you only have 3 pictures in the Discord with 1 screenshot of Mark 14. Yet so far you have quoted Al-Hara or whatever, 7 different apocrypha. Bro, we should be like looking at 7 parchments here, and you're just wigging this off the top of your mind.
Well, I mean, I don't have the parchments, but I mean, I can start throwing stuff in the Discord.
Look, I would call you almost as smart and retentive in all of your facts as Don Bradley, except you're sitting next to him, and I already promised I wouldn't do that.
No, this contrast is stark. When I sit next to Don
So
Bradley.
anyway, keep going. This is incredible.
So here's the part where it comes down to us, okay? In Hebrew, they don't have a word for atonement. They don't have it. Stop it. with the whole at-one-ment. Ugh, every time I hear that, I just can't stand that word. At-one-ment is not a word. Knock it off, okay? It doesn't translate from anything. There is no at-one-ment in Hebrew or in Greek. The Greek word is recompense or to buy back something, to spend the money for it, okay? But in Hebrew, there isn't a word for atonement. The word, if you know the holiday Yom Kippur, anybody know Yom Kippur?
Yeah.
Yom Kippur is the day of atonement, right? Kippur is actually not atonement like we think of it. It means the day of covering. Kafar is the old Hebrew word it comes from, kafar. Okay?
Oh, because the letter P and F are almost the same.
They mutate. They mutate.
Yeah.
So in ancient Hebrew, it was kafar. So the thing that kept Adam and Eve from being roasted alive in the presence of God was the actual clothing that Jehovah sewed from this animal skin and put on them. That clothing was a barrier between God's glory and their mortality. That skin, that garment covering. And so our Hebrew, the Hebrews thought of atonement not in terms of you get to buy back this thing, but in terms of you need to cover your shame, cover your guilt before God. That's how you do it. Now that word also mutated to mean to blot out your sins. Okay, you get some of that blotting out of your sins, or you get the blood of the lamb falling and blotting out on the Ark of the Covenant. It blots out the sins of the people. Okay, it covers the sins of the people so it isn't visible before God. So kafar, that's what you're actually, people we get made fun of for our magic underwear when they're the weird ones who don't have any kind of a sacred garment. But the ancients knew that garments had that sacred power and that the true meaning of the temple garment is the atonement. There is no atonement on its own. The atonement of Jesus Christ is the garment of Jesus Christ. It's the covering he gives us to mediate between the glory of the Father and our mortality. It keeps us from being roasted. That's where.
And so it's a symbol of Christ. It's a symbol of the fall. It's a symbol of all of these things. That's awesome.
Well, so picking out bullets in a foxhole ain't nothing, because this thing can handle radioactive plutonium.
Right, from the cosmos.
Dude,
so the apron is a symbol of the fall. The kafar, the garment covering, is a symbol of our atonement, of the redemption. Is that Christ made it. Christ is between God's glory and ours, and he's saying, don't roast these guys. And he sews the garment for us, and that's what keeps us. So if we are Jesus Christ's people, if we believe in the atonement, and if we want to return to paradise and withstand God's glory, we wear the garment as a reminder that we fell and that Jesus Christ is our only way back to paradise. Boys and girls.
Wow.
That's the story.
So, the fact that we have temples in modern times is something wholly unique to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's so beautiful as well.
Well, Epstein had a temple.
Whoa.
Oh, wait. Sorry, different kind.
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
Sorry.
I don't know about that one, you know.
Bill Clinton couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah. So, dude, you're a savage.
Sorry.
You're a savage.
Flagged.
But anyway, no joke. In modern times, I always thought it was one of the most beautiful things, because the ancient faiths, if there's any better proof that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in its modern iteration is the restoration of the original church, it's a fact that we're the only faith that really professes temples. Catholics come close with cathedrals because, you know, they really do believe that, okay, cool, we're going to build a big, massive cathedral, and that's a bigger deal than a chapel and so on. And
some Orthodox Christians too.
Yeah, some Orthodox Christians do as well, from other, Orthodox faiths outside of the United States of America. But here, really within North America, with our Protestant background, there's the apostasy, the great apostasy, so much was lost. And temple worship and even the very concept of temples themselves are just something that I think the rest of Christianity has no idea it's missing out on. So that's my piece. Before I go any farther, just like I used to have a probation officer that would follow me around, Don, I put you next to Jonah.
Oh, gosh, no,
you know what I'm saying? I put you next to Jonah.
I'm nervous.
You're like his historical probation officer. Has he said anything out of his lane? Has he said anything where your historian's bells and your smart person, Mormon scholar, historian brain is going like, whoa, you need to slow down there, Turbo.
I would just add things, basically.
Well, add away, bro.
Yeah.
That's why we got you here.
So first, what Jonah's not disclosing is that he actually went to the Dead Sea, right, where these scrolls were found.
That's right.
And he determined that these scrolls, people are thinking they're scrolls. He was like, wait a minute, this fits on my arm. This fits on my
you
other
know
arm.
this,
These
yeah.
aren't scrolls. These are garments.
They're garments.
That's how I pieced it all together. I would
Instead of saying he's going to the gun
Mm-hmm.
show, you're like, he's going to the garment show. You know what I'm saying?
So that the garments of many markings. Yes. Also, so I don't know. I mean, I know in recent years the church actually put pictures of the garments on their website, and like there's been more open discussion about what the garments look like and different things about the temple. I'm not sure how much detail I should or shouldn't give here, so I'm going to be vague somewhat. So people who've been through the temple are familiar with the garment.
Sure.
Should be able to piece this together in their own heads. I'd rather just like actually literally sketch it out here and show it, but do this in your head. Okay. So, we're talking about the compass and square as ancient symbols. We see them in ancient Egypt. We see them in early Christian depictions. We also see them in ancient China. There are depictions of like the male and female, intertwined male and female creator gods. One of them is holding on one side the compass, and the other hand the square.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so these are compass and square are architectural tools that they used to create the world. Is the idea, right? So these are that symbol I believe goes back to like 1,000, 2,000 BC or something. The Chinese one, and we have these in ancient Egypt as well. These are very ancient symbols.
I just threw the Chinese one in the Discord.
Oh, okay, sweet.
Okay, awesome.
Whoa, wait a freaking minute.
Have you seen that
You
one,
recognize the Hermetic symbol?
No. Go back to the picture you just posted.
This one right here.
No. The other one.
Oh, the other
This
one.
is the ancient Chinese
No.
one.
The compass. The compass.
This one right there.
Is that not the X logo? No, look at the left-hand side of it. It's literally that's the new X Twitter logo.
Oh, it's half of it. Yeah.
What does Elon know?
Oh my gosh! Wait. Show it again.
Put
If
two
you mirror it,
X's together. Yeah.
Put two of them together. Yeah.
Wow, look at that. Did we just discover Elon Musk's public enunciation of fealty to the secret order that hid the Constitution behind Mount Rushmore?
On the back of the Declaration of Independence?
So now, as you start getting into that, actually, I found something really fascinating where there are people who get very disturbed by the possible connections between Joseph Smith and Masonry, right?
Okay.
And they'll say, like, all of this just comes directly out of Masonry, right? But as you've just heard from Jonah Barnes, this symbolism predates Masonry by a long
time.
shot.
Long time.
Yeah.
And I would even argue that the way that Joseph Smith used this symbolism in the current LDS temple endowment that we have now, the way he is putting that together kind of better matches the way that it used to be used, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's more, like the symbolism, we view it a little differently than Masons do. And
absolutely.
it's a really important thing, especially when you start looking through. Jonah has done a ton of work on this with the Apocrypha. There are all sorts of apocryphal references to things that are in the temple ceremony. This is
a ton.
This is not
All
something
over.
that Joseph Smith just lifted out of Masonry. This is like an ancient practice.
No, if somebody were really familiar with this stuff, and I keep waiting for this to happen, like when we posted those garments online that the church was showing what temple garments look like, I keep waiting for some scholar who should be familiar with this stuff to say, wait, what? Joseph just made that? Like, he came up with that? Because it's all over the ancient world.
Yeah.
You know?
So, an aside before I go back to what I was saying about this. So, in my book, The Lost 116 Pages, Reconstructing the Book of Mormon's Missing Stories.
Yeah.
Wait. Is it? Do you mean this book?
That
Ooh, you got a
Right there.
I find it was
hardcover.
lost, Carden.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Flexing his
whoa,
hardcover
okay.
on us.
So, the first part of it talks about the history of the Lost Pages. The second part, the history in the Lost Pages. So in the history of the Lost Pages, coming forth of the Book of Mormon and so on. So I have an account where someone interviewed Joseph Smith Sr., and he actually said that the implements of masonry, as known to Masons in his day, were on the top plate of the golden plates.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the implements of masonry, the primary ones are the compass and the square, which in every Masonic lodge, on the altar of the lodge, there's a sacred book, usually the Bible, with a compass and square on top of it. Not a coincidence, right? So if you think about garments, right, and you think about the symbols on the garments, right, you've actually got 4 symbols, but you have one symbol, then you have a repeated symbol. So it's really 3 different characters, you might say. Okay. So 4 sacred symbols, 2 of which are actually repetitions of each other. Okay. Now think about the sacred name of God in Hebrew, known as the Tetragrammaton, YHWH in English, right? Yahweh. Okay. So it's 4 characters, but 2 of them repeat.
Yeah.
Okay? The H is a repeated symbol. Okay. So I would suggest that the garment is actually a representation of the sacred name of God. So when we're reading the scriptures about taking on us the name of Christ, in the temple, when we put on the garment, we are actually literally doing that. We are taking the sacred name of God and we are literally clothing ourselves with it. So we are putting on the name of God.
Dude. What? That was awesome.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, okay, cool. I got to tell you right now, I think garments are so much more cool. With that said, I really think we do need to make them slightly better fitting, a little bit more accommodating to some of the modern.
Carden,
I'm sorry.
Were you listening to anything we said?
I'm 6'6".
Oh, geez.
I'm 6'6", and if Jesus would allow me to freaking wear my garments with a decent pair of board shorts that goes down to my knees, I would really appreciate it. So I don't look like I'm snowing while I'm surfing out there after work. You know what I'm saying? Without having to make a really ignominious trip to the bathroom, okay? You know, I'm not trying to make Jesus more convenient, but it would be nice if he did us all a solid there, all right? So if people in the church office building, we'll talk.
Well, this honestly,
we'll talk, okay?
Honestly, though, this has changed the way that I wear my temple garments. When I discovered this and read about this, and I thought, this is the atonement. At one it isn't from anything. It's just an English, thing that we make up. But kafar, the covering, the garment, that's truly ancient and beautiful, and it's changed the way I wear my garments.
And the last thing I'll say before we got a hard out here, unfortunately, in 30 seconds, is I was actually asked to speak at a young kid in our ward's baptism. Actually said, hey, can Brother Ellis be the speaker at my baptism? I was totally flattered because there's only 2 people who completely tell the truth. And if they think you're cool, you're cool. Really young kids, because they will just tell you. If they think something you're wearing looks stupid, they'll tell you. If they think something's cool, they'll tell you. Like out of the mouth of babes, they speak truth, right?
And Kwaku.
Yeah, well, and Kwaku most days,
we'll
right?
Tell you.
But also old men. Those old men that are not afraid to wear a Speedo to the pool and just be like, you don't like it, deal with it. They'll tell you whether something's cool or whether that thing sucks, right? So the fact that kid asked me to speak at the baptism, I was very flattered. And the thing that I brought up was I said, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because baptism is so common among us as a rite of passage and an ordinance, we sometimes forget how cool and deeply symbolic it is. You are participating in a 2,000 plus year old ritual that connects you to Saint Thomas, to Aquinas, to the founding fathers, to Jesus Christ, John the Baptist, the people martyred. Saint Ignatius was baptized and went through the exact same ritual you did. This is a beautiful thing, and you are one with the martyrs, the early Christians, the apostles, and everybody that came before you by doing this, if not just by completing this sacred act that they did also. So anyway, any final thoughts? 5-second thoughts. Anything else we missed before we go?
Everything you said is the same with your garment. You're participating in something that goes back to the beginning of time. And maybe before that.
That's awesome. I'm taking it more seriously now too. For this and more, guys, please check us out on our website at wardradio.com. You are listening to FM 98.1 and AM 1220 KHTS. We'll see you in the next program.